Hey everybody. Been wanting to do a few more comic streams, just kind of show work in progress, show some artwork. Um, and as I've been getting my campaigns ready, I've been kind of preparing to do more of that. And I'm lucky enough to have a couple awesome guests tonight, Daniel Calvin and Charlie McKelvey. I'm sure you're familiar with their books, but if you guys want to just, Daniel, what are you working on? And
In general or for the
oh
comic?
yeah, let's go here. I know you from American Dreams and
Which
Rook
is
and
now
Knight.
a Band of Bards. Issue 3 comes out at the end of the month. You can pick up all 3 issues, plus maybe issue 4 at Nickel City Comic Con in Buffalo, which is at the end of the month. So plug that in. I haven't even got my table yet, but I'm really excited. They'll be with the Band of Bards team as well up there. I'm also known for Night Wrath, a couple anthologies here and there, and the upcoming Rook and Knight series.
Night Wrath is actually my favorite piece from Daniel. Just for the record,
I love Night Wrath.
American Dream School. I really like Night Wrath. I really do.
I thought that was cool. That one just grabbed me by the lapels when I saw it.
It was like,
yeah.
And our other guest, Charlie McKelvey, does Spider Squirrel and a bunch of other books. God Quest. Let's see what else. Some stuff we're working on.
Some stuff we're working on. Well, working.
Yeah.
All these directions.
I know. I'm working with both these guys. Yeah. So, like you said, Charlie McKelvey, Spider Squirrel was my first real property out there. So prior to that, I actually had WatchGuard out there back in 2015, but didn't do anything with it for a long time. And really because I felt like I lost the passion for stuff, which is interesting because, as a creators, we kind of go through, fits and slumps. But Spider Squirrel was the one that really hit, and it resonated well and really seems to do well on social media as well as in crowdfunding. So I'm really proud of that one. Got a new book, Spider Squirrel book coming out. It's it's kind of a throwback. It's a kind of an old school annual where there's a main story and then a bunch of anthological stories kind of attached to it, all in the same universe. So that's coming out, and just this weekend. So breaking news, I got the what may be the Baltimore Comic-Con exclusive cover, which will also appear in the Baltimore Comic-Con yearbook, since I'm a guest there this year, which I can't wait to show you, but I cannot show you guys because by contract I'm bound to not show you until it debuts at Baltimore. So you got to come to Baltimore and see it. Although this next Kickstarter, I will actually have the Baltimore exclusive option available as an add-on, but it will be more expensive to the Kickstarter than it will be at Baltimore, just for the record. And there's obvious reasons for that, I think. But yeah,
pick up at Baltimore.
Yeah, exactly. So Daniel, you can pick your copy up at Baltimore. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about that. Daniel's got a story in there that should show up. Now I don't have art for it yet, but working on that anthology. And then God Quest, you had mentioned earlier, Ben, launches actually this coming Wednesday. So 2 days from now, we'll launch God Quest on Zoop. You can find it on Zoop at if you just go to godquestcomic.com, you'll find the pre-launch page there. So
Let me throw that link up.
Well, I think I'll look at my pre-launch link to you as well in the private.
Oh yeah, please do that.
Yeah, if you guys throw those in the chat. I was just Googling it, but that would work too. But yeah, so speaking of conventions, I just heard from Zoop today. We're working with the printer for Scarlet Twilight. Had to answer a few questions in the files now that they're back. The printers are kind of back on it. And I have to figure out if we want to print up a bunch of extra copies to sell at cons. And Red 5 has asked me about that as well. I've never tabled at a con before. And you guys have. So I was hoping to pick your brain on what makes sense to do, how much you can expect to sell, any advice you have, I guess. I was kind of thinking of trying to do some smaller cons. I think there's one in Poughkeepsie later this year.
That's Mid-Hudson, right?
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, Mid-Hudson. Is that what it's called?
I think so. I've heard of it.
Okay. Yeah, I went there last year just to visit, and it was pretty cool. But my wife's been on me to start doing some table stuff. And
yeah, my wife started tabling last year at Baltimore for the first time. So she's never, well, actually, that's not true. So you mentioned small cons. I'm a guest at, there's one in my city at Fredericksburg Comic Con, the same team who does Nashville Comic Con and does Hampton Comic Con, which I think got postponed this year. as well as and Fairfax Comic Con. So all those are kind of local. Yeah, it's fun, dude. I love small cons. Now, don't get me wrong, I freaking love Heroes
Mhm.
Con. It's one of my favorite cons of all time. And Baltimore is absolutely upper echelon. You should do it if you can do it. Do it. I think
My charm show.
yeah. I mean, I think
I've
Dan
heard a
and
lot of
I
good
can
things about Baltimore.
vouch for the financial side of things. You'll make your money back for sure.
Like Baltimore every year seems to be my best show.
Yeah, it's
I've been to
fantastic.
C2E too, and Baltimore beat it. So like,
Heroes, if you're talking about small cons, you get a great chance to capture an audience that you've never really gotten a hold of.
Mhm.
You know, especially like if you go to Poughkeepsie, for example, there's gonna be so many people that never heard of you, and they're dying to hear something new. And you can give them individualized attention because it's not going to have the foot traffic of a Baltimore or a Heroes or a Mega or some of these others. That's not a knock on them. That's actually a benefit, I think, for us as creators because you can spend individual time and not feel like you have to rush them along.
because let me put it like this: I would love to table at New York Comic Con because high amount of people, I can probably make a lot of money, but also I'll be on a huge hall or technically a basement hall filled with like 300 plus more artists all vying for their attention.
Yeah.
Artists and writers for their attention. So it's like kind of high risk, kind of high reward because the risk is the money you lay down for the RSI table, but the high reward because the amount of people you could do well. But if you have a smaller con, that risk factor goes down.
Yeah. My wife tabled actually with a couple organizations she's part of at MoCA this year. And that was not as chaotic as I thought it would be to set up there and everything, especially in the city. So I could see myself doing it, but I'm trying to figure out how many, do I want to spend a bunch of money printing out like 100 extra copies and go to smaller conventions? Is it like not worth messing with anything with the big ones? So that's really good advice. Because I'm definitely thinking smaller cons, at least at first, if I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, look, I went to Hampton Comic Con last year, dude. Not expecting anything, but since I was a guest and didn't pay for it, I figured, what the hey, right?
Oh wow, good.
And right, well, that was just dumb luck. But had I dropped the $100 on the table, I would have made that up in the first 2 hours. And it's a one-day con. It's only an 8-hour con.
That's cool. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's I'll definitely be hitting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying.
I think I lost.
So.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Nice.
How many sales?
90. One day, small con. You can. So they're great.
Yeah, I mean, and alternatively, and this is the downside sometimes of small cons. I did a very tiny convention here in Brooklyn last weekend, and I did not make a cent. Neither did my table partner.
Wow.
But it was,
where was that?
Williamsburg.
I had not heard of that store. Where was that?
It was like a small con. It was like the Brooklyn invasion of Queen's Comic Party. But I think it's maybe might have been the right audience because a lot of people were going for the long boxes versus looking for artists. I have friends who were also there and like, yeah, we're not making.
Oh wow!
Well, it's also a cheap table, so I'm not going to complain too much. I'm only out between me and my table partner, we're out $50.
Oh, that's not. Yeah, I don't know. There's all these new comic stores in Brooklyn. There was a couple of really good ones when I lived there that closed down, and then I keep
Bergen
seeing
Street Comics. I miss Bergen Street Comics.
That was nice. That was my favorite.
There was one on 7th Avenue above the print shop, and that was like here gone.
Oh wow, I hadn't even heard that.
It was there I think during my college years, and then it was there one moment, gone the next.
Wow, what part of the city are you in?
Brooklyn.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like what neighborhood in Brooklyn?
Victorian Flatbush. Like I'm just like south of Tibbs Park.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we lived in Bed-Stuy until a few years ago.
So you'd be east of me, roughly.
Yeah.
I lived in.
I'm not. We moved upstate to Stony Point, so we're like 30, 40 miles north of Manhattan.
Yep, I know where it's at.
Yeah, nice up here. But I liked the city a lot. It was cool to live there. But yeah, so one thing I was going to do is just show off some. Oh, lost you guys there for a second.
I was saying,
I haven't been able to show too much of what I've been working on lately because I'm doing some. Oh, I'm sorry, I think we're frozen.
It's like, no, you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you like a little in and out.
That
For a
might have
bit.
been me. Oh,
Yeah.
my bad. That might have been me because I think both of us or all of us were freezing. But yeah.
Oh, you can't.
Did you guys want to show off any artwork or have anything to show off? Just covers or campaign pages?
I mean, if you go to the preview page of my Kickstarter, it's in the private chat, you can see the preview pages and whatnot. I don't think I can easily drop it out from the Google Drive because that's sent to to the team.
Yeah, cool. Because I can ask you. I actually got to read this, so I can ask you some questions about it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Share my screen. I apologize. This is my first time doing this.
It's a PDF. It's
You don't
probably your
have
first
to
time seeing the variants.
Yeah, you don't have to apologize, Ben. You're good, buddy.
Takes a while sometimes.
Just getting the hang of this. And let's see. Move. Change the layout. So hold on a second.
Yes.
See if I can. Huh, that's not good. So hold on, let me try this again. Stream. There we go. It's trying to do it. All right. Let's just do this so it's not picture in picture. Wow, StreamYard is not cooperating today. Huh, that might not work for a while. I'm sorry, guys.
No, you're good.
I'm not sure what the deal is with that.
Here. Let me share screen, and I'll see if I can. So you had asked about, I'll share my entire screen, and then you had asked about stuff in process.
Oh, well, likes that. All right.
There you go. So
nice.
This is a cover by Julian Shaw. So I mentioned that I've got a special coming up. We're calling it the Spider Squirrel and Trash Panda Titan-sized super special, where it'll have a 24-page Spider Squirrel story. This is a cover by amazing Spider-Man artist Julian Shaw. Julian's working on this in between Spider-Man. I think it's the ASM annual he's doing right now. Yeah, super fun. I love what he's doing here. It is suitable for children work, even if the sticker is covering up something. That sticker will. Yeah.
The shocked expression on the villain's face is like, oh God, no, public nudity.
Well, so it's funny. So I asked Julian, I said, hey, Julian, do you want to do an iconic cover or do you want to do something from the stories? Oh, well, I kind of want to cheat and read the story. So let me read the story. And so I sent him the story. He says, can I do a cover of Spider Squirrel's outfit, like totally ripped off? I'm like, absolutely, brother. And so this is what I get. So it is from the story. I think you guys are going to love it. It's a lot of fun. I had a blast writing it, and everybody so far has had a blast reading it. And so, in fact, it was one of the rare scripts that I sent to Vito, who's my editor, and he had like one change. He said, "Hey, you used this word twice on one page," and I was like, "Oh, that was the only correction." So I'll take it. But he laughed. He loved the fourth wall breaking that I usually do, and he loved. I think I did it better here than I did in the first volume. But this is great. So it's fun. We're going to do 24 pages of the Spider Squirrel story with him and Trash Panda. They have independent adventures. So they kind of break up after the first couple of pages. And then there are, at minimum, 8 6 to 8 page anthological stories in the Spider Squirrel Zion universe that are happening after that, and we will be visiting different aspects of the universe. So we'll hit Canada, my Canadian heroes, and a few other places. Deal with the mystical. Daniel writes a really cool story that actually, Daniel, you saw some of the art already. Yeah. Coming along nicely. That takes place on another planet, even. So we're having a good time, and I think you guys are really going to dig what we got in store. And it's nice teasers for what's coming, down the road from me and the rest of Zion Studios. So. There, I get StreamYard working.
He's feeling a little fuzzy.
Yeah, I think Ben's lost a little signal.
Yeah, it's my internet's getting really unstable there, which sounds silly, but this never happens. I don't know what's going on today.
They're hating the player.
But that cover looks awesome.
It really does.
Yeah, this is not.
Well,
Maybe I
Let
could
me try to
figure
share
out how to do
Daniel's.
show off a
covers.
Ben Morse cover or two, but I figured I'll leave that for you to do, man.
Well, if I can the StreamYard present here, I could probably do some of this stuff on my end. Hold on. Let's pull up the covers. This is just you want it with text or without text?
Whatever you want.
Whatever
man.
you want.
Yeah.
Okay. I have the covers as JPEG, so it might be easier to just do it at that. Hold on. Present. Share screen. Okay. Is the screen scare? Oh, there we go.
Not yet.
There we go.
There we go.
So here's our cover A by the Bags Brothers team, who are the main artists of the series. Cover B by Vesco. Well, I always pull a blank on his name. Hold on. Vesco Giochini did the B cover. Sally Lockhart did the C cover.
No pun intended. That covers fire, bro.
That is awesome. I like that one a lot.
Yep. Yeah, I'll be backing that one. So if you want to charge me bonus for that one, by all means, because I'll be buying that.
There are add-ons. There's the ability to do add-ons.
I figured.
Let me see if I can pull up the some of the pages.
As you're doing that, I got to read this a while ago. It was really awesome. I loved how I had read another series with a creator named John Solito that I talked to a while ago. The name is, I'm just blanking on it right now, but it was just very cool. Not exactly throwback superhero stuff, but everything just, I'm like, I said, and I think the same is true of this one. It was nice to just read something like this. I'm like, oh, I forgot how good it feels to just read like a pretty solid superhero, type of setup that I'm used to, but goes new places.
Yeah.
It was funny. So Dan and I are collaborators. We have been for a long time, about 2 years now. And I mentioned I had a book called Rook coming. He's like, "What? Wait, did you know I had Rook and Knight coming?" I was like, "Oh shit, dude!" But they're not dissimilar, but they're absolutely not the same.
Right.
And the difference is like neither one of us are really like both of our character sets are. His two main characters are not really superheroes, but they're heroes in a superhero world, right?
Vigilantes.
Right. And then mine is also just a dude who he's actually a disgraced police officer, I guess is the best way to describe it, who goes on a mission to clear his name, recover his family, and then take down the big bad. But it's the equivalent of a gangbuster from the 80s Superman series, if you guys remember that, from John Byrne.
Mm-hmm. I know of it.
Yeah, John Byrne, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and those guys created that character, and it'd be the equivalent of Gangbuster taking down Lex Luthor. It's that big a bridge, between the two. So that's kind of what this story is. Very, cool. Very Punisher-esque without murder.
Very cool.
So, yeah, no, I'm excited, Dan. Is this going to be Band of Bards or is this going to be solo?
My idea is that all my hero books eventually will be under Band of Bards, but they probably want me to finish the arcs first. Unless we figure out a way to speed things up. I have to talk to Tim and Charlie. I mean, Tim and Chris.
Yep.
One of those receivers was right. Tim and Chris. And we have to sit down and figure out next steps. But so far, American Ninja's doing well at Band of Bards, so I'm really happy about that.
No, good for you, man. Proud of you.
I will say that first issue, just calling all the stores, I had lists. I had lists of stores to call. And I didn't know calling. I just did because I hate cold calling. I have this so I just emailed and Facebook messaged as many stores as I could. Found some stores, remembered some stores that were on the list. I messaged them. They say, oh, and it's like the idea that you have to know your market. It's like, I'm in New York City. It's kind of a bigger pool, and they're like, yeah, you're right. It's hard to make like a one-on-one customer relationship with a store when there's like a whole bunch and you're just the 5 boroughs alone. I mean, there's one like a mile from me that's like a hole in the wall, like by Brooklyn College.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when August was coming out, I didn't have any lists, and there's not really any stores I go to every week that are around here. I found the 50, what I thought were the 50 biggest comic stores, and sent out posters and a letter saying, hey, give it a shot if you can. I don't think we got any response from that. And both publishers I've worked with have said, like, if you know the store, go ahead. I was kind of like, hey, do you have a list? I was thinking I'd do that, like call up some places, even if it was cold calls.
There is
I
a
wouldn't
kind of
mind.
like a pump. There is like a kind of shared among the creators list somewhere I can
Okay.
find.
No, they were saying unless you know the people, they didn't think it was and they have some good contacts as well. So I think they're like, yeah, let us handle that unless you're in there every week and they know you.
Yeah,
But
but
I've been thinking I want to be more proactive about that, one way or the other.
yeah, I mean, I lucked out. I managed to contact public relations Midtown. I'm like, can I do something? They're like, we can do a follow up. I'm like, that's fine. And then the book was supposed to come out. It was delayed by 1 week because there was, I guess, a F up somewhere between the printer and Diamond, and then Diamond to the store. And I was like, oh, but the light I already had that Wednesday off anyway, so it was the first night of Passover. So I'm like, okay, I can take back a PTO day and just go in the morning, rush home, and help set things up for the Seder. Worked out so much easier.
Yeah.
By the way, Dan, you answered a question I was going to ask you as a not co-host is yeah, how do you, is it August or August? And you answered the question. So
Yeah, this August.
been dying to know.
Yeah. Well, that's not the most original name. I actually I struggled with that for a long time. The whole comic was a struggle, really. I started putting it together in. Oh, thanks. I started putting it together in 2012 and didn't really organize how I was going to write it. I kind of wanted to take almost like an improv approach where I knew, like, almost as a writing prompt how it would start. He was going to crash on a planet, wander into town, and you're going to learn more about him. And I thought that'll probably work out. I'll just draw cool things. And it did not work out at all. And it took me forever to find a name I liked. And I didn't even really love August, but it kind of, about a year in, it became like my working title. And as time went by, it just became harder for me to imagine him as anybody else. So that's kind of how it stuck.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I don't see a problem with that at all. I mean, I assume that's the protagonist's name.
Yeah, it's his last name.
Yeah. So no, there's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, it's funny. I'm weird because, and you guys, well, I know but this about me, Ben, but I love long titles and I love really truncated titles, and there's not a lot of middle ground for me. So funny story. So the first book I ever wrote that never got published, well, it will next year, but totally different than what it started out as. It was called The Covenant of Avalon. It's 5 words, right? Not a lot. But it was going to be published by Image. Eric Larson and I had conversations about it. We had 2-hour conversations talking about the book and the title and the art team and stuff like that. And so had the art team in place. And the one thing Eric would not let go of, he's like, that title's too goddamn long. And I go, Eric, I'm not changing the title. He goes, if you don't change the title, it'll never sell. It needs to be something short, catchy, quick, sweet. And I was like, what? Savage Dragon? He's like, no, smart ass. And so, we kind of joked about it. And I was like, I'll just call it The Prophecy. I didn't have a better name for it at the time. And the movie hadn't come out yet either, of the same title.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Eric's like, oh, that's great. I was like, really? That sucks. I totally threw that out there. I was spitballing. He's like, no, that's fantastic. So we were going to ride with that. And then Eric Stevenson took over for publishing, and then I had to start from scratch. So it never got published. Actually, more than that happened. Eric Stevenson took over. Andy Smith, who was my artist, became contractually bound to CrossGen, like everybody else at that time. and then just things fell apart. But anyway, Travis Gibb is writing that book for me. If you guys don't know Travis,
Okay. Yeah.
So he's going to take it. I gave him the concept and not my original story. I said, hey, fair game, do what you want. And so he's got the character, the concepts, and the main antagonist, and he's going to write a graphic novel next year for me with that character. So he's finally, after 30 years, getting published. This character,
wow.
so, yeah, a lot of fun. But anyway, yeah. So I love that. I love what I was getting at. August. It's just like it's simple. It's almost a punch in the face because you can't say it and not have an image of the book if you're familiar with anything. If you flip through previews and you hear August, you go, oh, I know what I saw. This said August. And so I like that. At the same time, I like longer titles too. But
and it kind of what I mean, because when American Dreams was originally being written, it wasn't written as American Dreams.
Just Liberty?
The original title is Modern Colossus, after the poem The Modern Colossus, which is the poem on the Statue of Liberty.
Okay.
And then the first publisher I was working with to get it eventually done was like,
oh, who you're talking about?
Yeah, God knows which one. He's like, I like everything about it except the title. I'm like, okay, and I had to start thinking of like 20 different freaking titles. I'm like, I think I just spat out American Dreams. Like, good, perfect, and it stuck.
I do like that title a lot.
Yeah. No, I think it works great. You what you did. So I don't know if you even realize this, Dan, and so I'm going to give you mad props right here in the air. Is you captured a concept, an iconic concept, right? The American Dream. You captured that in an era when the American Dream was more than alive and well. It was birthed, right? The nascency of the American Dream is really 1920s to 1950s, and you're right there at the 1950s, the cusp of that, right? And then you got a Jewish, right? And you got a Jewish character who, of all people, really embraced the American Dream. So as the Jewish immigration took place, that was all about, a little bit of religious freedom, a little bit of economic freedom, and the ability to build yourself up from nothing, right? Which is honestly the Israeli story all in a nutshell, right?
Right. That and also, well, I'm not holding up a mirror between our time period and today's period and today, but then in today as well, because of all the conflicts, are like history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes.
Yeah. No, well said.
But going back to long titles, I'm working on a Western called A Pack of Wolves, and that's a 4-word title, but that's the working title currently. And so far, I think it's the one that's stuck. It's like I worked on another Western, which I was calling either Sadiq, or its English translation, which is A Righteous Man.
Yep.
So so this other Western is like either short title, 3-word, or slightly longer one.
And just a thought, and Ben, I want to give you some airtime too, but just a thought, Daniel. What if you pick a name? There's some.
I think we're having some connection issues again here.
Okay.
This looks like it's on me.
Right.
And you can hear me, right, Daniel?
Sort of self-evident.
So pick a my suggestion. Maybe pick a name from the Torah that literally means a righteous man. Whether it's Yeshua, which doesn't mean a righteous man directly, but it obviously it has a good thing. But maybe that.
The Hebrew term is Sadiq.
Sadiq, right? So
that is one of the two. That is currently the main working title.
I like that. I mean, honestly,
the first Western doing with Jay Sheg, and then another Western I'm working on, and we'll see which one ends up being the one that takes place.
Ladies and gentlemen, we lost our host, so Dan and I will be taking over the show.
Chaos. No.
Yeah, let the chaos ensue.
Give it back soon.
But no, I'm excited for you and what you guys say. Hey, Benjamin is back.
Sorry about that, guys.
This is remorse. Oh,
my internet is generally very stable, so I'm surprised we're having issues.
But, that's why I had to do earlier today when I had to exit out, come back in.
No,
that kicked me out entirely. So
you have no idea what we said about you while you were gone. It was great.
I'll go back and watch it.
So Ben, tell us about August. So I want to know more about August. I love the visual.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know more about it than what I've seen, right? In the title, obviously. So tell us more about August. I really, as a fan and nerd and as a fellow creator.
Yeah, so it was essentially something I started. I'm gonna throw some artwork up here. if it'll let me.
You guys are gonna love the panels that I've seen so far.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah.
I see your Windows desktop. There you go.
Ooh.
So this is from the sequel I'm working on, which is several decades after the first one. But the gist of it is the first story we did is Purgatory Underground, and he's about 24. And the whole idea is he's kind of an 80s cartoon franchise type character, a little bit of Luke Skywalker, a little bit of He-Man in there. And we kind of catch up with him after there's been a huge kind of galaxy shattering conflict. So he, in fighting this war that's been going on, that you could almost say is akin to, He-Man fighting Skeletor all the time. The good guys win, but the pivotal sort of Battle of Midway type thing they have, August is the hero of, and is pretty instrumental in actually acting Mars. So at first he's lauded as a hero. Everybody's pretty happy with what happened. As time goes by, and they enter kind of a reconstruction phase in the galaxy, public sentiment turns against him. People are like, hey, we need to make friends with these people now, and he's more and more thrown out under the bus. And the first story is kind of him figuring out, all right, I'm not going to be able to just stay in the service like I have my whole life, which is what he's done. Trying to find a new purpose. And of course, in the comic book, it has his purpose is dramatic and adventurous. So that's pretty much it. It's kind of like a little bit of spaghetti Western hero, a little bit of He-Man, Luke Skywalker, and then just I try to make it really colorful and harken back to 90s comics a little bit in terms of the visuals.
I'm looking at seeing like a
And
little
then
Flash Gordon
these,
connect too.
Same thing, Dan.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I had the Flash Gordon thing going on too, which by the way, so that was one of those things I'm working on as a Flash Gordon meets Robotech meets X-Wing Rogue Squadron meets Buck Rogers, kind of a thing. So yeah, we'll talk about that some other day. But that's the visual I got too, is also the Flash Gordon thing. I love it. I love the art style.
Yeah, I really pushed myself a little. It's weird with Scarlet Twilight. I kind of am simplifying a lot of things I normally would do by default.
Kind of
with August, I was kind of struggling to find ways to get more cross hatching in there, get more shading in there and rendering. And with this one, I'm really trying to make it as rendered as I think I possibly can and still make it look really comic booky.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I've been trying to do with these pages.
Yeah,
these are the last ones I've worked on before I took on helping out with a different book. I'm not sure if they've announced it yet, so I won't say what it is, but an artist had to leave halfway through the project. So I'm helping wrap that up and then kind of getting ready for the campaign for August, which we're going to probably start in August to collect the first story. And then hopefully I'll be in a position once it's fulfilled, because that one not just needs to do the prayer to launch the one shortly after that. So we'll see.
My birthday is in August, so it's a good time to launch.
Oh, mine too. So
mine's in March.
Hopefully that'll go well. I'm sorry, what?
Mine's in March, so that's actually when I launched Night Raft last year on my birthday. So
yep.
Oh, cool.
No, this is, if you guys aren't going to back, you have to back this. This is fantastic, and no, I mean really, it looks gorgeous. I've read Scarlet Twilight, so I know what the writing quality is going to be like, and the thematic, the essence of what you're capturing here is just really cool, dude. So, and I think there's a demand, ironically created by a group who is vehemently almost anti-comics. But and I won't mention their name, but I think they've brought people in who are looking for this kind of thing, and I think it really captures that imagination, but in the right way, without pouches and belts and stuff like that, but with a heart, So I really like this. This looks fantastic.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, thanks. Yeah, this is from Purgatory Underground. This character that we see here is related to her. We pick up decades later, so August will be old by that point. That's how I was going to look in the new series. But yeah, it's weird with the writing of it. I have a much harder time writing this because with Scarlet Twilight, I felt like I kind of hide between, but with a lot of I could put all these captions in, I could do tons of thought balloons, I could have these characters be really silly, and it all kind of worked because it was a throwback. And with this, if something's a little cheesy but fun, I get a little, I think, self-conscious about it. I'm like, I don't know, are people going to laugh at that? It seems a little silly. So I have a much harder time writing August than I did Captain Lancet and the characters in Scarlet Twilight. Plus,
Well,
unlike you guys, I'm not really a writer, so.
Well, I like to go with the kind of the idea of Richard Donner, the director of Superman the movie. His model of verisimilitude. Truthfulness, you have to be true to the character. Sometimes you have to go into that little cheesy area. Though, students everyone has to find their way into that little bit of fun. Sometimes, Sometimes it's harder than the other. I know Steven Sondheim once quipped that in order to get someone to be able to really get himself to get into some of the let his inhibitions go for some cornier lyrics, he would also have a drink.
It's fun, and it's funny. So, when I created Spider Squirrel, I mean, the character name itself just said, "Oh my God, you can't be serious." And so, for me, I have a crutch. I get to be as cheesy as I want to be, and nobody's going to ever say a thing about it, right? Mm-hmm. So, I think I understand what you're saying, and that's, by the way, I understand your kind of hesitation in some instances, because when I was creating American Yakuza, which you know about, Ben, initially, I especially with a long title, I wanted it to be a little bit more fun and less serious. But I thought, is anybody really going to take this book seriously if there's not it has to be 90% story, and then I can be 10% silly, and not the other way around, where Spider Squirrel, I can be 90% silly and 10% story, and people will love it because it fits the character. So there's definitely a balance to be had depending on what book you're writing. Dan, you did a good job. I think you balanced it well in Night Wrath, and that's why it's my favorite book. I think Night Wrath captured the 90s without feeling like you were trying too hard, and I think it captured the 90s without feeling like a cheesy shitball book.
Exactly.
It was it was really well done, and I think when it was cheesy, it was the right cheese. You pick the Swiss instead of the Gouda, but or you know what I mean. So I think you did a really good job. That's why it's my favorite book that you put out so far. And the art is perfect. Oh my god,
the art was so cool. I loved it. It was just fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah. Speaking of the art, so Gabe, as you know, is busy with that book with Wesley Snipes, The Exiled.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Very busy. So I literally sent him a message several months ago. I'm like, do you think we should get a fill-in for you? Because I know you're swamped. He's like, nah, I'll be back. It's my baby too. And I get a message to him several weeks later. I think we need a fill-in. So he's found this 18-year-old Wunderkind, and he's starting some pages that look great too. It's still 90s, but I think being more in the Ed McGuinness direction.
Still that's not bad either. I mean, I think
great.
McGuinness.
The one page I've seen so far looks fantastic.
So McGuinness would be late 90s, early 2000s, and so he bridges the eras, I think, and in that way, I don't think that's a knock on the book. I think it'd be a really good advantage to you, honestly.
I would like to keep going.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
the next one is Ryan Hitch style
of who it is and everything in several months. So because he said, I think a kid, the artist, sent me a message. He's like, hey, I'll get back to the pages, but I need to graduate first. I'm like, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Wait, who's the artist?
I am been told by Gabe not to tell until he's ready.
Okay.
Might be a while.
You can
the pages first.
I'm just curious because it's funny because the guy who's doing the Yakuza American Yakuza graphic novel interior is he's also working on his thesis and graduating, and he said,
no, this is not a thesis kid. This is the kid who's coming right out of high school.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're good.
And it's great. It's he's 18.
It's hard to imagine. Wow.
And he's this good. It's really. I mean, there's some really good teenage artists out there, but this kid's really up. It's really good.
Maybe a bad example, but Liefeld was 18, 19 when he did Hawk and Dove.
I think that's right. Yeah, he might have been younger.
Yeah, I think it was younger than that. So,
I mean, Jim Shooter was 16 when he wrote Legion of Superheroes, but then again, he could pass for 20 because of his height.
Yeah, I suppose. I want to say one thing about you mentioned American Yakuza, and I don't want to give away anything or spoil it, but you mentioned the artist for the interiors. You have to tell them, as cool as that jacket is, it wasn't my idea, and I'm really sorry. They're going to have to draw it over and over again.
Well, I assumed that we'd probably rely on the colorist for that. So,
Yeah.
I will. And so I use Omi Ramalati a lot for my books, as well as Saul Shavanis. Those guys are really awesome.
Mhm.
Good dudes. And I don't think they'll cry. Or Ross Hughes, who I'm hoping will be available. He worked for Hi-Fi. And he's doing a couple of books of mine. So one of those three will be doing the colors, and I'm pretty sure. And none of them will complain because they'll know. So yeah, it's not your fault.
No, I looked at it. You sent me that concept. I'm like, dude, that looks really cool. It stands out. It's the great thing for a comic book because it is graphic and bright, but still lives within that grounded. It's what it is. I'm like, that's such a great idea. It's not going to be too hard for me to do once, but oh my Lord.
I mean,
I'm doing my best to limit it to covers and pinups, for the artist's sake,
Yeah, like in my case, like I cannot draw to save my life, so I literally have to give like a list of like what I want for the artist. At 9 out of 10, okay, and like why don't you try? It's pretty much really close to what I have in my head, or if even better than what I had in my head.
Well, you know what, Ben, I don't mind doing this. I'm going to do this just because we're on this call. And so the rest of you who are out there wondering what the hell Ben and I are talking about, I will show you a preview.
Whoa.
So this is I guess you would call it an exclusive.
Wow.
I do have another one. Let's see if this is with the dress. There it is. So let me open this up in Photoshop, and I'll just give you guys the whole preview. So what Ben's referring to is this jacket here that the main protagonist, if you will, is wearing. The book is called "I Invested in an International Conglomerate, Went from an MMA champion to becoming the first ever American Yakuza overnight." Literally. Yes, that's the whole freaking title. But what he's referring to is this jacket, which has Japanese cherry blossoms or sakura on it in a pattern. And it was one of those things that I came up with in my head, and I played around in AI just to see what it would look like. And I sent it to Ben, and Ben's like, "Oh my God, that looks so dope," And so he did a beautiful job on this. But yes, if this were to appear in every page or every panel for a series of pages, I'm pretty sure I would get shot in the skull by my art team. So,
can you pull it up? Because we still have this whole kind of.
Oh, you don't see it?
No.
MySpace, yeah.
I
think it's sharing your browser window.
Let's see if I can. Let me go back.
Not the screen.
Fix that. Let me
Self screen.
Stop that for a second, and then let me present, share screen, entire screen, and there we go. Okay, there you go.
There he is.
So there's the title. This is the cover that Benjamin did for us.
Oh, nice.
It's not the final. We have a little bit more steam overcoming, but yeah. And there's the jacket that he's talking about.
Actually, remind me when they're coloring it. I have that. I have those flowers in vector, so that might help them out to throw in there.
Oh, fantastic! I will do that. Thank you. So yeah, I think this book is going to be a whole lot of fun. It's going to be written by, so it's created by myself and Ben and Chris Moses and Anthony Stokes. And so that team is going to be working on this. Obviously, you saw Ben's cover there, and then I've got another cover from Ariel Medell, who is currently doing Street Fighter versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for IDW. But he also did my God Quest milestone book, which is in the chat, I think, campaign-wise, and launches on Wednesday. So Ariel's the series artist, but he's doing a cover. He jumped at the chance. I showed him your cover, Ben, and he's like, oh, can I do one? I was like, yep, absolutely.
Oh, good.
I need to figure out something for Ben to do for one of my books. I don't know which book yet. Probably American Dreams down the line.
I like your characters.
I
I like American Dreams, but yeah, man, figure it out. It'll be cool.
Yeah.
I've seen the God Quest interiors that you're mentioning are really nice, and the colors are great too. That's just some top notch stuff. So I'm sure he'll do
Well, since I mentioned APAT, well, I call it 8 for short APAT, do you want to see like the first page or so of APAT? And black and I don't have it colored yet or lettered. Hold on, let me pull it up. Come on. Load up. Oh, joy, this is not. I don't want to share screen until this thing is loaded. So give me a second. Or I'll just go to my freaking library of stuff.
In StreamYard, if you share
your
screen, click share screen. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, I was waiting for the photo to load up in the drive. Share screen. I want that. This is the
cool.
opening scene.
Nice. Love those textures.
Yeah. I'm working with Roberto Savorese. I think that's how you pronounce his last name on this.
That looks good, man. Are you going to leave it
good
white
too.
or color?
I think I'm getting Warnia. Me and my editor, Andy Cordy, were thinking of getting Warnia to do it. Because Warnia's been, I think, my main colorist on most stuff.
Yeah, the reason I asked is, I have Rook coming out. It's a pilot issue, as I call it. So, and I'll explain that later. But it's a one shot ultimately, and so I got the first pages from Dexter, and I was like, oh my god, how can I color this? It looks so pretty, like with his washes and stuff. And I decided, I made an executive decision at the last minute. I was like, hey Dex, I'm gonna not color your pages. He goes, oh, I'll clean them up and make them even better. I was like, holy shit, how do they get better? Like, it looks so. That's the reason I didn't want to color them, is because they look so good. So
because it doesn't say that because we're debating, me and Andy, my editor, like just debating, do we color it or do we not color it? It's been a small debate going back and forth. We're still leaning towards Warner. We're having the same debate for what I'm calling the Crimson Casebook of Sherlock Holmes, The Phantasmic Masquerade. Again, long title.
Yeah.
And it's basically Sherlock Holmes versus the Phantom of the Opera. It's a sequel to the original Phantom of the Opera novel. This will be more of a novel than the famous musical, because we all know the musical has a sequel. We do not speak of that sequel. It is a bad show. It's like one or two good songs.
They made a part two of Wait, they made a part 2 of Phantom of the Opera?
Called Love Never Dies. It's terrible.
It's not worth mentioning, but I will say, Daniel, I don't know if you know that. I don't think you know this for as long as we've known each other. So my wife and I, our first real date, we went to see Phantom of the Opera at Chrysler Hall in Norfolk, Virginia, and that was big for us. And we ended up getting the understudies, but they stayed and sang Christmas carols because it was December 23rd. So they came after for an encore, and they sang Christmas carols for half an hour. It was beautiful, man. It was absolutely beautiful. So that became a thing for us. For every year on our dating anniversary for several years, we went and saw Phantom of the Opera locally usually. So so that's a staple for our marriage.
I'm a weird 6 degrees of separation from me and the original production of Phantom. So the original Broadway production, I should emphasize. So my mom worked at Holt Publishing, and they did the tie-in companion book to the musical, which we still have. And so she and my dad saw the original company on Broadway of Phantom back in 80-something. And my mom was heavily pregnant with me at the time. So I technically heard in utero the original Broadway cast of Phantom of the Opera. I got to see it once myself on stage at the Majestic Theater. And of course, I have the 20th anniversary Blu-ray of the stage. They did at the stage show at the Royal Albert Hall for the 25th anniversary of the London production. And it's a really great production. I've tried so hard to get rush tickets to see one of the last performances of Phantom before it closed. So I'm like, so close to getting to the last show, and the lottery. Dude, win the ticket lottery, or win the lottery and buy the ticket.
I would murder my sister if I had one to go see Crawford as the Phantom. I mean, that's awesome. So
yeah. Well, I didn't see him. I don't know which Phantom I saw, because I saw Phantom 6th grade, I think, was the only time I saw it on stage. But I mean, I also have the Albert Hall version, which is just as good. It just don't have a chandelier drop, because you can't do that with that ceiling. It would literally kill someone.
Yeah.
There's no way to stop it in time.
Isn't that
said
like a
that Lily had
staple of it always happens on the like that's the big moment, right? Like the
it-
helicopter and that other.
the chandelier rises at the overture and then it drops at the end of Act One.
Yep.
Okay.
And,
That-
and I was watching like a mini documentary about it. So they would have, it was computer control. They would have two stagehands literally rush on as soon as the lights go out, just grab the chandelier before it actually would hit someone.
Oh wow.
And because the Royal Albert Hall ceiling is so much higher than the Majestic Theatre or His Majesty's Theatre in London, which is where the London production is, it's so much higher. If they did the drop, it would actually end up, and also a much bigger chandelier, it would actually probably hurt someone.
Yeah, they did the drop at Chrysler for us. It was beautiful. It was just one of those moments that like almost brought a tear to your eye because you know when it happened, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. So yeah, that was really.
So
well
I
done.
didn't know anything about that when I saw it. In fact, it's the first musical I think I ever saw, aside from in school we'd go on a field trip or something.
Sure.
And my parents had tickets to the Aronoff Center, which is where they do plays downtown in Cincinnati. And they're like, "Hey, we got everybody tickets when you get into town." You know, I was living in Cleveland at the time, and I'm just like, oh, "I want to see a musical. I'm too cool for this." And you know, it's like, okay, we go, and it was like there's sword fights and the song's good, and the ceiling, you know, the ceiling light came down. It's like begrudgingly sitting there, like, yeah, this is actually really cool. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I grew up in a theater-going household, so I love shows. So,
It's
but going back to the Fantasmic Masquerade, so because there are some, I'm calling it Love Never Dies done right, but I won't say how. But because if you're not a musical fan, but basically the premise is Raoul and Christine are living in London. Raoul's a diplomat. Christine performs from time to time, and their son gets kidnapped. At the same time, Sherlock Holmes is back from his supposed death. This is like 6 months after the adventure of the empty house. He's kind of back on the drugs, and he's like, hallucinating. And he's, like, because he's had this phase of the great game is over, and these kind of two strands come together because of the kidnapping. And of course, at the very end of the first issue, someone's back. You think he's dead? He's not. Because I see like flashing screens. Another connection?
Yeah, a little bit. So
Yeah, just a little.
Making
let me go.
in this whole
In the theme of the night.
Yeah, it is actually.
Okay.
No, it's good.
Oh, I think I lost
yeah,
connection for because your screens were going bloop, 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 bloop.
So
Log out, log in. 1 second.
So Benjamin, what do you have? What's next for Scarlet Twilight, man?
This is a great segue, actually. So he's, I haven't told anybody this, but it's at the end of a video, so I don't know how much it'll get out there. But I'm going to take some characters. The next version of Scarlet Twilight is going to be based kind of on like Crisis on Infinite Earths. So it'll be that type of Secret Wars Crisis type thing, but with Captain Lancet. And if you've read, the book, there's a few plot threads open still that that have to go with. I didn't really have plans to do another one, but I wanted to make a character with my nephew, and he wanted to do that. And I thought, well, maybe there'll be something there that I could use. It would be a reason to do it. And I was maybe going to do like a one shot, and it would just be a little bit more of a standard adventure. And as time went by and I got to thinking, like, it would be cool to do like Crisis, but it's like they would have done it in 1942 or something like that. So Daniel was talking about, using Sherlock Holmes and in some of his cast. Bring Daniel back. It's been one thing I want to do, because I think this is a staple of like the really good Infinite Crisis type stuff, is you have these characters come back you don't expect. So while the beginning chapter of it, we're going to have Captain Lancet just reestablishing the world a little bit, and at the end of it, something crashes in that you think is the antagonist we set up from the first one, but it's going to be Stardust the Super Wizard and Black Terror and those guys fighting Yank, and they're in from their universe. Whoever is public domain that I can use and not get sued. That looks cool. So I'm going to try and make it like that's your the original Superman busting out of that crystal thing for Infinite Crisis, or Earth 2, Earth 3 crashing together type of thing, but with with these characters and done all in that really shorthand 1940 style. So that's going to be the next Scarlet Twilight. I'm not sure when I'm going to do it, and that really depends on how August does this summer. If that does really well, I'm pretty inclined to go finish the series that I was showing you guys the pages from.
Yep.
And if it kind of underperforms, I'm be like, yeah, probably time to go back to Scarlet Twilight and do that. So I'm pumped about both. Because I think that's going to be a really fun. I was struggling to think of something to do with the retro. I've felt like a lot of the things I wanted to take with Scarlet Twilight mesh the retro stuff and the style of storytelling and modern ideas and some modern pacing. I felt like it did that, and I thought it would be more of the same. And then I got to thinking, like, what if I made it like Crisis on Infinite Earths, but in that style? Like, all right, that's different enough. There's enough meat there, I think, to make a good story. So that's what's next.
I dig it. So what you just told us was, everybody watching, make sure you back August so we can make sure we get this next Scarlet Twilight for damn sure. So are you doing
it's going to happen either way.
You doing August on Zoop or Kickstarter?
I'm going to do it on Zoop. We're going to do so. It came out to stores with Red 5,
Yep.
And I think had we released it a year later, it would have done a lot better. So what we're doing on Zoop this summer is the collection of Purgatory Underground, and I've got a ton of. Actually, I can show some of the spreads here.
Do you already have a pre-launch set up for that?
Oh yeah. Let me throw that. Thank you. Throw that in the.
Look at me playing co-host.
I know. I'm just getting started here. I want to do a lot more of this, and just kind of have more or less show or tell or talk about what we're working on, and I am getting used to it. So
while Ben's pulling up some pictures for you guys to see. So I'm a big fan of Zoop. I love the platform. Now it's not as mature for sure as Kickstarter. Didn't have the following of Kickstarter. I do love the shopping experience as a backer and as a creator. So you can throw those pages up there while I'm talking. No, not mine. But yeah, I really enjoy the experience. I think on Zoop personally. Overall. Now, that being said, Kickstarter's come a long way and they've made some changes. And I think because Zoop has been around, some of these changes have come about. One of the things I love about Zoop, for example, is all the stuff Ben's showing you here, you'll see in the campaign, and you'll know your add-ons before you actually even make your you can make your wish list before you even start shopping, which is great. So
yeah, but the cool thing about this is what was bad, and how I kind of developed this was really undisciplined. I worked on it for probably 8 or 9 years before I had like the right mix with the story. The good thing about that is I have a ton of extra artwork. I have a prequel that actually is from a previous pitch I put together in maybe 2018 that still actually works in the continuity of the story. So that's gonna see print for the first time. I got some extras showing some of the stuff that the other chapters of August I'm going to do. What else? And the coolest part, I think, is I've got all this stuff to make an art book out of. So
love that.
All this unused artwork that was from previous drafts or design sketches is going to be in there in a nice collection. So that's going to be with Zoop this summer, probably in August. They suggested we do let's just do it during the month of August. And I thought, that's a good idea. I can't believe I didn't think of it. But
Jordan and Eric are great guys.
They're great.
Guys.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that has to be said. They're great to work with.
Yeah, I'm in the drum to Zoop just because I have this. I don't think I have enough Kickstarter following quite yet to strongly justify a Zoop jump, but we'll see. We'll see in the future, especially if I do something a little more, I don't know, high concept or different. I don't know yet.
Yeah. No, Zoop is really good if you have a good following. Initially, that'll help them and you. But it's a really cool platform, and I do encourage you, Daniel, and everyone really check them out frequently. See what's out there to purchase. Back stuff there, but also give them feedback. They're super Ben and I were kind of alluding to. Eric and Jordan are incredible to work with. They are very open and receptive to feedback. There's limited development, sure. They're not Kickstarter. They haven't been in business for 15, 16 years yet. But they are trying to build a platform that caters to us. And I'm talking, I'm pointing to those of us on this panel right now, as well as those of us who are watching. It's really focused on comic books, indie comics, and comics adjacencies. So you'll have puzzles, and you'll have posters, and you'll have art books and other things. But it's comics, and it's very niche. And while some would argue that's a negative, I think it's actually a benefit in this case, because comics has gotten so big.
I think it's a big benefit.
Agreed. I feel like so many comics, good comics. Now, I don't think I'm one of them, but I feel like so many good comics get lost in Kickstarter unfairly because it's such a saturated platform. Because it isn't just comics.
Yeah.
It's everything under the sun. It's boxing training. It's basketball training. It's science fiction writing. It's novels. It's technology and movie production. It's camping equipment. It's all kinds of shit, which is great. I love Kickstarter, and I back probably every one of those categories. Something in every category. But if you want to do comics, I think they're doing comics right from a crowdfunding perspective.
I agree. Yeah. One thing I found with Kickstarter is I thought, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, not a knock on Kickstarter, just a comment. That's all it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I actually reached out to a lot of people doing board games and card games or RPG books that were like superhero themed, and said like, hey, do you want to cross promote? Thinking like, hey, that would be great, because the comics, there's a lot of, if you cross promote with people on Kickstarter, the month you're live, it's generally like the same people. It's a pretty small pool. I thought, oh, that would be a great way to take advantage of some of the fact that you have this huge other pools of things on Kickstarter. And I think a couple people were like, no, we don't want to mess with comics, or we just want to keep it to our backers. And then a few people I did cross promote, we just saw very little, nobody came over from that. So I was kind of surprised, thinking it might be one of the points where Kickstarter and would be advantageous. They have all these other things. You could pull some of them into the comics. But I didn't find that to be the case. And what's great about Zoop is, if I had the wrong Daniel there. What's great about Zoop is they're just so focused on comics, great to work with, and for me, especially doing all my books on my own, with no other letters or anything, for them to take the lead on the campaign and that stuff, and they have all this great advice, was like a godsend. I couldn't believe how much faster I got done when I was working.
Yeah, no, they're great, and I'm sure you've had calls with Jordan. Jordan's so much fun.
Maybe having trouble again.
Oh,
all right. Well, I might. I'm just might call it a day. Since the internet's having so much trouble. Just great use of he's watching this to any particular pages we have in the past or anything else.
If you guys can hear me, support the Rook Night campaign when it launches soon, and then I have to go right into doing a engine.
There we go. Okay. And Charlie, where to check out?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find and get a hold of. So, pretty much at Charlie McElvey, except for Instagram, just put a dot between my first and last name. And then spider-squirrel.com is the majority of my Kickstarter stuff. Although Milestone, I say Kickstarter, I meant crowdfunding in general, but Milestone has his own campaign at godquestcomic.com. That's GODQUEST comic.com. And that will launch again this week. So looking forward to issue 2. If you missed out issue 1, no worries. We'll have some catch up tiers for you guys and gals who might have missed that first one. I love. We're going to do a big reveal of the villain, the series villain in the second issue here. So good reason to hang on for the second issue, or jump in if that's the case for the second issue, and collect it. And we have a really neat, I think, socially relevant Zoop exclusive cover from Eli Johnson on this campaign. So limited very strictly to the first small subset of backers, and I won't give you the number. I think you'll have to just wait and find out on Wednesday. But find out Wednesday by going to godquestcomic.com and follow the pre-launch, and then when it launches, get on that sucker quickly.
All right, awesome. And my pre-launch is live now at Zoop. This is the collection I was showing you guys from the first August book. It's going to be the whole story. It's going to be the prequel. It's going to be an art book that has all the development stuff in it. And August is like my baby. I love Scarlet Twilight, but August is like my thing. So I really want this to get out there to more people. We kind of launched it in stores on a rough year, and really just hoping to get more eyes on it. So if you're into these 80s inspired things, if you're into 90s comics, He-Man, Star Wars, you're definitely going to dig it. So if you haven't, check that out. And yeah, I think that's a wrap. So guys, again, thank you for coming on. It was so awesome to have just talk comics, which is really all I want to do. But yeah, thank you again.
No problem.
Thanks.
For having me on.
All right. I'll see everybody later.